Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the BDPA Tech and Career Talks. I am our National Tech and Career Talk host, Devin Jenkins. I serve as an IT business partner for our U.S. and Canada Enterprise Operations team at GE Healthcare, and also the founder and CEO of Share the Vibes LLC, where we connect people to music technology. I'm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're glad to have you here with us today. Whether you're here with us live in the room or watching this on YouTube, thank you for being here. If you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, comment below. Share this with someone who needs to hear this because you know someone who needs to hear. So don't be stingy. Share the jewels, share the gems. So thank you for being here. I always like to kick things off with a brief intro just to make sure people know who we have with us, what BDPA is, and what these tech and career talks are all about. In case you're new to the organization or what it is that we're doing through this platform. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. The organization was founded in 1975 as a way to continue building the African American talent pipeline within the IT industry. We have a focus on developing computer programming skills, professional development, and other skills and tools needed to prepare our youth, specifically middle and high school students, for careers in IT. But we also provide forums for professionals and collegiate students to continue developing their skills and expanding their networks through our various academies and programs to continue advancing their careers as well. Our mantra is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So if you're not a member, go to bdpa.org, join today. We just had an amazing 50-year celebration in Atlanta last month at our national conference. We had an amazing time. And we're looking forward to keeping it going as we kick off year 51 in Indy next year. So we'll be in Indianapolis next year for our national conference. So make sure you're there. Don't miss out as we begin this next chapter of the BDPA legacy. The Tech and Career Talks take place on the second and fourth Friday of each month. Our topics range across the board, so some are more hard tech focused on things like AI and cyber and computer brain interaction. We've had a range of things on here discuss, and then we've also had some that are a little more on the softer side, like emotional intelligence and how to work with jerks and getting your resumes and your LinkedIn's together. So we give you pretty broad range. So whether you're a student looking to get into the field, you're a senior executive that's been doing this all your life, and you're ready to go live on the beach somewhere, we give you something that you can take some value from out of these conversations. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Like I say, like, share, subscribe, comment, tag us. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about as we go into next year, and share it with somebody who needs to hear it. So with that being said, we're going to get into the meat of today's conversation. Super excited to have BDPA Atlanta member Mr. William Oliver with us today. William, how you doing, sir?
I am well. I am well. I appreciate you having me. And for those that don't know, Devin hit me up on LinkedIn some time ago, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to come on. I like your story. Just want to know more about it." And I saw it on LinkedIn, and at the bottom of your messages it says, "Hey, this person saw it," and so I said, "Okay, I'll hit him back later," and really just forgot, right? And so when I saw him at the BDPA conference this year, the first thing he said was, "Man, you left me unread." So we just, I had to laugh about it. I had to apologize to him and say, "Man, I please bring my head, not my heart." Definitely wanted to join and definitely think it's an honor for him to think about me and coming in and kind of just sharing some of the information, maybe some of the things that I kind of learned along the way and really be able to share those things with you. So got to say thank you, Devin, for your patience.
Absolutely. No, definitely left me on red, but it's all right. No, it's all good. We all have a ton of things going on, so I get it. Absolutely. And I've had every interest of responding to messages before, and you just completely forget. So hey, I get it. So, but we got you here, so that's what matters. We're here.
Yes.
Everything happens when it's supposed to, so we're gonna rock with it. So today, we're talking about modern STEAM activations as a launch pad for success. You've done some pretty cool things through STEAMsport there in the Atlanta community, and have brought some of that energy even to our BDPA conference with our esports competition and more. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. We know that STEAM education is important. And sometimes the struggle is how do we make it relevant for the youth? I mean, even for adults, how do we make these things relevant, exciting, and keep you there, and not make it intimidating, but make it accessible for our community. So I'm looking forward to getting into all that and how you've been able to do that through STEAMsport. But to kick us off, I always like a little icebreaker question just to get us going and
Mhm.
kind of
All
lighten the
right,
mood a little bit. So,
let's do it.
given esports and some of the things that you're doing there, what's your favorite game system of all time? And as an added bonus, what's your favorite video game of all time?
All right, so game system, and I'll give you guys just a little bit of background. So my dad is an engineer, and actually it's very niche because I don't know, my dad, well, he's retired now, but what he did was he designed interiors for airplanes. And you guys would not understand how intricate, well, I didn't know until I started growing up and kind of figuring out what he did. But it's like you have to calculate each and every square inch of that cabin in the airplane, and it's kind of fascinating. But my dad has always been into computers, into engineering. We had the old Commodore 64, like, way back in the day. And I remember my dad used to keep it in the corner. You couldn't touch it. It was like, don't go near it. But we used to get these magazines, and they were like computer coded magazines. At the end of every magazine, it would have code that if you typed it in, that it would make a video game. And I remember just begging my dad, oh man, and they had Paperboy. So I'm kind of dating myself. You guys can see my gray hairs. Paperboy. And I was like, Dad, please write this code so we could do Paperboy. And he finally did it. And I remember just sitting there and just playing Paperboy over and over and over again. It had to be on about 3 pixels. Like you had
Wow.
two things. You had a bush, all the houses looked the same. You had a dog, and you were just riding, and you were trying to throw the papers without the dogs hitting you or without hitting anything. So that was like my first entree into video gaming. And I mean, I was just immersed in it. Like I really loved the game. And as I started growing up, they would always buy me and my brother video games. So we've had like a Sega Genesis, we had the Nintendo. I brag to my kids and tell them I played every Madden since the game came out. And so I would have to say, if you say what's my favorite gaming system, I just, you can't beat the computer power that the PlayStation 5 has right now. So I think that would probably be my favorite gaming system, but my favorite game has been Madden. And just to see the evolution from when they used to player gets hurt, they used to have the ambulance to come out there and they would get the player off the field and they would take them out to what it is now. So esports has just been kind of an evolution for me because we were doing esports back in the 90s. But it was just you didn't have the opportunity to play virtually, so you would just play with your friends. So definitely would have to say PS5, and then Madden would be my favorite
Okay.
game.
Okay. Okay. So you play every Madden that's come out.
Oh,
Okay,
I've,
that's
I've
all
had them
right.
all. I've had them all. And that's my flex on my son and his friends. So
Okay.
yeah,
Have you heard of the I think it was called the Madden God tournaments. Madden
I
God, it was
have. Yes.
yeah, so I was at BitCon not too long after BDPA Con 22.
Hmm.
And down
Hmm.
there they had the whole Madden God tournament, and I think his name is Chabata. He came down, he hosted it, and that was my first. Like I had heard of esports, I knew it was a thing, but that was my first time seeing it like that. I'm talking. I mean, they had like a marching band from my high school came in, and Chabata came in with like this
Oh yeah.
crazy energy. It was like underground
Hmm.
battle rap for Madden. Like it was crazy. I'm talking about they talking stuff on the mic. You got a VIP section over
Oh
here,
yeah.
food
Oh
and
yeah.
bars. Like it was a whole experience. And I was like, wow,
Yeah, it
this
gets
is crazy.
very intense. And now we're doing a lot of things with the Oculus headsets. And so now with the NFL Player Pro, now you can get the headset. It used to be you can only be the quarterback, but now they're allowing more players on the defensive side. You can be these different players, inside the
Yeah.
game. And so we went to this thing that they hosted over at the 100 Robotic Scholars over at Dr. Lonnie Johnson's STEM Activity Center, and Meta was there, and they told me eventually, William, it's going to be an 11 on 11, right? Where each and every person is going to have a headset on with a different functionality, with like a different job.
Wow.
So if you're a lineman, you're going to have to be a lineman. If you're a quarterback, you got to throw the ball. If you're a receiver, so man, I can't wait. I can't wait. The connectivity, I think, what is really amazing, and that's what just growing up into video games you had to be there. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is it's somewhat a give and take. because I really enjoyed having my friends in my room or downstairs,
Yeah,
and everybody,
yeah.
we're eating popcorn, we're talking junk, everybody's playing. But now, because you can connect to anyone around the world, it gives you a bigger, wider broadness, I guess, in terms of who you can play. But then you still kind of miss that one-on-one interaction. So it's a little give
Yes,
and take, but
definitely, for
I
sure.
love the
Yeah.
way the direction is going.
Yeah, it's the evolution, man. This things are constantly evolving, and we're gonna talk about that some today too. So no, I'm glad you gave that context, and you had me reminiscing a little bit over here. So, oh man, I have to think
Oh
about that.
yeah,
My favorite
don't
game
get me started.
system might might be the PS2. Somewhere between the PlayStation 2 and the Nintendo
Mm,
64. I'm somewhere between those two. I think I'm gonna go with the
that's
PS2
a
just because your
good choice.
graphics started to come along a little bit, with the PlayStation 2. The
Hmm.
Nintendo 64 is like pure nostalgia. Like, that's my childhood.
Hmm.
Man, yeah,
Gotcha.
good times, good
And
times.
I'm gonna tell you,
Favorite
we
video
we
game? I don't know.
we incorporated this year as a throwback inside of our BDPA esports tournament. We incorporated Tetris,
Okay.
which was amazing because you wouldn't believe how many students were having problems just putting pieces together. So,
Mm-hmm.
they're used to all of the graphics and all of the, you got to press AABA and left, right to get the guy to cross over on NBA 2K. And it was like, no, you just need to put shapes together. That's all you do. So yeah, they hadn't ever seen it before, so it was kind of
Wow.
amazing to see that whole evolution. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Introduced to Tetris at BDPA Con. That's crazy. Uh, oh man. Well, no. This is fun, man. Excited about today's conversation. So, give us the backstory on your career, and just kind of how that led to the creation of Steam Sport.
All right. So backstory is not absolutely not a straightforward story. I didn't come into this working in science and technology through. I was a psychology major in college. I have an MBA, so coming into this space was definitely not straightforward. In my prior life, what I did was I worked on what they call human capital as it relates to communities, specifically housing communities, public housing communities that were being torn down and redeveloped. So, some people call it gentrification, however that looks. But my job was to come into that housing authority and says, hey, mom, you're going to have to move. So let's see if we can plan what your next 10 years are going to look like. So I would go inside of each and every public housing community in the city of Atlanta and go in and set that stage for you have to move, but I'm going to be there to support you while you're moving and before you move, during your move, and then when you decide to come back to the community, if you do. And so what I found inside of that work was a lot of our parents were very ill-equipped to make choices. And so if you say you were a single mom, two kids, needed a place to stay, you would go down to the Atlanta Housing Authority and you would say, hey, I need a place. You apply for apartment. They say, hey, we got a two-bedroom in Bowen Homes. Take it or leave it. They went, and your life is really mapped out. The school is right here, the grocery store is right here. Your whole ecosystem is literally within a square mile of where you live. So now you fast forward 10 years later, and you saying, okay, mom, you have to move. And it was like, even to the point where the housing authority created these things called good neighbor classes. And they were teaching things that were so simple, like if you get a housing voucher and you move inside of a community, you cannot barbecue in the front yard, right? Which was, if you grew up in public housing, you don't have a backyard, right? So everything happens in the front yard. So those are the simple things that our parents were struggling with. And so trying to move adults to some level of self-sufficiency just it was very difficult. But because I was working inside of the after school programs and working with their students, I saw these students are smart. Man, they are really, really, really smart. And the only thing that they need is an opportunity and exposure. And so what we did is we started building robots inside of an after school program. And so the students were loving it. They were wanting to do more. I contacted Georgia Tech and they said, hey, this competition called the First Lego League Robotics Competition. And so we can sponsor you, we can give you robots, but nobody's coming to Castleberry. Nobody's coming to Vine City. Nobody's coming to English Avenue to teach it. So if you want this thing to grow, you're going to have to learn what you're doing. And so we started back in, I want to say 2011, just trying to understand, and again, that was before like YouTube, you couldn't get a lot of access to information. So I would go to competitions with a camera and just take pictures of the different types of robots that these students were building. And what it showed me was two things. One, the students' competition for jobs, for internships, for fellowships, for admissions, they are so far ahead of what our students are. We have a tendency to try to introduce robotics and anything that's science and technology related when the students get to high school. These kids were starting at 7 and they're programming and they're building. And it made me think of like parallels. LeBron James didn't shoot his first jump shot when he got in high school. You know, you get it was Michael Penix, and I'm a Falcon fan. Just take that for take that for what it's worth, right? It's my gift and my curse, right? So Michael Penix didn't throw his first pass when he got to high school. Like, things that people are really, really, really good at, they start doing at an early age. So light bulb came on and said, hey, let's provide these students each and every opportunity to participate in this STEAM ecosystem. And let's take money off the table. So every program that we provide for our students are absolutely free. Let's take access off the table. Our parents don't have a lot of cars. So when we go inside of communities, we blanket the entire community. We serve the elementary school, we serve the middle school, we serve the high school, we serve the YMCA in that area, the Boys and Girls Club in that area, and on the actual community. So we'll have our STEAM program sit right in the middle of the community, whether that's a community center or whether that's a community room inside of the leasing office. Our whole goal is that no child gets left behind, right? Nobody. And so anybody that wants to participate, you have that green light to do so. So, fast forward 2011, we're 2025. We serve about 3,000 or so students every year.
Wow.
We have now our 5th after school program that's STEAM related. We had an amazing opportunity to work with the Housing and Urban Development STEAM Innovation Network, where went across the country, and we were doing esports with students from Watts, with students from Oceanside, with students from Dallas, with students from Richmond, Chicago, Daytona Beach. We were going literally everywhere, and we provided these esports and also game development workshops across the country. So we went from 5 students to 3,000 a year. I think we're about 25,000 in total. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey, an amazing journey, and I love my job. And going back to what you were saying is, I get to be a big kid. So, if I want a new video game, what I'll say is, hey, this is going to be in the esports tournament. I need to understand how to play this game. Or, if I want to build a new rocket, hey, I need to teach the kids how to build a new rocket. So it keeps me young, keeps me working with students, and then it also kind of keeps me sharp in order to make sure that I'm giving good instruction.
No, I love that. I love that. And you said something in there where you make it accessible because a lot of these parents aren't able to get too far away from where they're living. You have kids spread across different age ranges, so you're hitting all the schools. You're tapping in YMCA, and then the Boys and Girls Club. So no, you've taken a full community approach to STEAM
Absolutely.
education. A lot of times we hear about STEAM programs associated with a particular school or with a particular like YMCA or a particular club, but you've taken a full community approach. Talk a little bit more about what that looks like. What does that model look like with STEAMsports, and how
Mhm.
would you say that's proven to be more or less? I assume it's more, but how is it proven to be more effective than the traditional approach, just going into like a single entity?
Absolutely. So our job, and I tell each and every school that we go into, is our job is to support the work that you guys are doing, to bring some type of real life application to what you guys are already doing an amazing job teaching the students. So if you take, for instance, robotics, we students have to program these autonomous robots to go from here to here, achieve different missions, maybe pushing, pulling, picking up, doing things. So if you're teaching students about angles, right? If you have on a test, you say, hey, you may put a right or obtuse in acute angle, and you ask them, hey, which one is obtuse? They circle the right one, is good. You get that correct, you get your check, and that's it. But what we try to get them to understand is that science and technology is a tool for you to solve problems. So you not only have to understand where you want that robot to go, you also have to understand what is an obtuse angle. How do you get more than 90 degrees that you have to get this robot to turn? But getting it to turn is not the end because you have not completed the mission. So that's one of the things that we're able to bring inside of schools. We're able to bring inside of Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, things like that. Other thing that we're able to bring is being that speedboat. I was on a panel with the gentleman that writes the community now that writes the computer science curriculum for Atlanta Public Schools, and he talked about just the importance of the nonprofits and the NGOs that we can be like boats because school systems they're only going to get around to curriculums about every 5 years, but we can do more. If it does not work, we're going to try it. If it works, we're going to do more. If it doesn't work, we're going to scrap it and we're going to do something else. And so we get an opportunity to hear straight from, people like yourself at GM. Tell us what's working. Tell us what you guys are doing, and let's be able to push those things down inside of the schools. State Farm, some of the other partners that we have, we're always in contact with them, just picking their brains and saying, you used to hire a bunch of coders, now you're looking for people who do more of the AI creation. I'm just speaking hypothetically, but that's one of the good things about the organization and then our relationships with the schools.
I love it. I love it. There's a full ecosystem in play to really make this work, which makes it effective and keep the wheels moving there. I love that. So you've been talking about it a bit, but want to go a little bit deeper and really kind of get into all the programming that STEAMsport offers. So we've been sitting here talking about our childhood experiences with video games and how we got introduced to like STEM, more or less. A lot of these things that
Mhm.
were just childhood pleasures for us have evolved into lucrative career paths. Like you can make some real
Absolutely.
money playing video games, and you talk about building and developing video games, even more. So with that,
Mhm.
how has this evolution really shaped the programming that SteamSport offers?
Oh man. So, again, I say I'm the biggest kid, right? Things that I love to do now, just like you said, students can get paid a lot of money to do it. So when we have kids coming in, even things like Ear Scratch, which is a sound engineering program that was developed at Georgia Tech. And you used to have all of this equipment. And and everybody I think has played DJ at some particular point in their lives. But students are able to come in and they're able to create these different sounds, and then that could be incorporated inside of the video games. So you have a lot of these different things that we, of course, saw as just fun, whether it was, hey, let me draw these characters. I want to make a character and you make a whole backstory for it, right? He came from Krypton and he, has the power of lasers. And so now these things that we used to just think about and maybe write about or just see it in the comics, you're actually able to take those things and put them inside of a video game. And then you're able to put those things on Steam or our AI. They have these different platforms that you can put on that you can actually begin to monetize. And you don't need to go to these big gaming houses, or you don't need to have all of this equipment and technology now. It's just allowing students to kind of dream the things that we dream, but actually now put it in motion and make it careers. I was visiting Andrew, which is a defense contractor, and one of the guys talked about, hey, I used to draw missiles all the time, and he had this whole backstory about being able to draw the missiles, and he would do all the launch stuff. And so his creativity is what they looked at because they do remote drones. That's what they do. And so just the different ways that you get into it now, it does allow those students that kind of dream of things that we would be considered just kind of pastimes or things that we would just do it as play. Now they can actually bring it to life and make money from it.
Man, it's
Yeah, it's
yeah, career
amazing,
paths are
man.
just
It's
they
amazing.
yeah, it's just it's it's so different now. You know, like things were always there, but you know, it's we're exposed to it and they've evolved. Like you said, I remember being in middle and high school, and we would go out to the technical. They called it Tech when I was coming up. But we would go out to the technical
Hmm.
college
Hmm.
there in our community, and that's when they started talking about video game development. You might see them building the computer. Like I wasn't even thinking about drones in high school, you know. So it's just the way things have evolved, which takes me to my next question, which is, you know, you're doing things like esports, robotics with Legos, and I know when we spoke, you even mentioned like you have a production studio that these
Yeah.
students can come in and do media production work as well. So how have you been able to take those things that can sound fun at the surface, maybe even competitive, if you will. But how be able to take those things like esports, Legos, media production, and correlate that to be able to teach relevant tech skills and concepts.
Oh man, there's so many skills. One of the what so let me tell you how our esports came evolved. And we actually call it e-cross, right? So what I was looking for is how can I have the fun that the students have playing the video games, but then also have the teaching. Because literally anybody who has ever made a video game, there are so many 21st century skills inside of making video games. You know, we even talked about using sound, um, a whole sound engineering platform or a whole sound engineering division can be used when you're making video games. And now you even seeing those same sounds that we had in Mario Brothers that, you know, now
Mm-hmm.
those are in songs. You know, so
Yeah.
it's not only being monetized in the video game, now it's being monetized in the song. But you have graphic design, you have computer coding, you have sound engineering, you also have the artistry who in the backstory creation. So there are so many skills that students can use inside of, you know, just going out there and getting other types of jobs. And that's why we really, really, really push esports. We push video game, we push video game design because we want to have those students to understand when you're working on a project, everybody doesn't do the same thing. So you don't have to have this whole love for computer coding in order to make
Yeah.
video games, right? You can be in your lane and you could take that particular lane and you could say, hey, I do like graphic design. And you can do graphic design, whether it's for anything from shirts, maybe fashion stuff, all the way to video games. So, you know, just having something and having all of these different programs that when it comes down to like the basic 21st century skills, that it may be that the students don't actually know that they're learning these particular skills, but they are, and they don't really know it until they take it and use it somewhere else. And you know, you take it to school and they're like, hey, we want to, you know, do some front end coding and we're going to do HTML. And the students are like, oh, okay, I already did that. I know this. And so yeah, this is it's amazing, you know, just to have the students and have that same kind of enthusiasm, getting them learning, and they may not even know they're learning. So we try to that's the element we try to bring in, like trying to bring the fun into
Yeah.
science and technology.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that, the fun aspect of it. So like we said earlier in the conversation, a lot of times with STEAM education, it's not that, you know, the skills aren't relevant, the information, you know, isn't there, but it's a lot of times it's just people don't find it interesting, or you'll lose them because it can
Mhm.
get heavy when you're dealing
Yeah.
with tech and these concepts and these skills. So you touched on a little bit, but I want to go a little bit deeper because, you know, BDPA Con, if you go by the esports tournament room, it's a vibe. You got the DJ in there, the lights going. Like the students, they find esports room, they have a time the whole week. So, talk a little bit about how the strategies you've had for making STEAM education and activations like fun and appealing for
Mhm.
participants, students and adults.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of goes back to my background. You know, I've beat every bush, you know, I've walked in every underserved community, every public housing community that you can name. And so, you know, just going around and I understand you have to meet students where they are. If you don't meet them where they are, they're going to check out and they're going to check out very fast. So when we come in and when we're practicing, we play music, you know, and we play everything from a little baby. we'll play boots on the, like we try to make it where it is not just a program, it's an experience. So same thing when we come to BDPA, we know some students are going to come, some students are going to come for just the computer coding part of it, but students remember experiences. Like I came to Atlanta, I came to the BDPA tournament, man, I had a time, we danced, and again, you have to meet those students where they are. If you are kind of trying to put this square peg in this round hole, they have the opportunity to walk away. And for what we do and the students that we serve, walking away may mean, hey, I see they're having fun over here in the corner, on the corner. They may be selling drugs, but they're having fun, right? So I have the option, do I want to stay in this community center and do I want to code or do I want to go over here? And so that's the kind of competition that we're already in. So, again, I got my gray hairs. I have my I have my opinions about some of the music and some of the stuff, but again, if we want to achieve our goal into truly, truly, truly breaking cycles of generational poverty and getting students engaged and making them want to do this and getting them to see that there are other avenues of ways that you can make money, ways that it can be fun for you, ways that you can make a career. I can't come in and say, okay, guys, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to sit down, we're going to be quiet, we're going to cook. Like, no, no. So we try to make everything very, very fun even in our robotics competitions, and I probably should have talked about that a little bit. That we host a land robotics competition, an underwater robotics competition. We host a drone competition. We do this year will be our first high school film festival. So getting students to create, things from their whole lens. But the common denominator, everything that we do, we're going to have a ball. It's going to be high energy. The students are going to remember what we do. So, just you got to meet them where they are. That would be my long and short question for that. I mean, long and short answer for it.
Oh man, I love it. A high school film festival. Huh,
Yeah.
when is that? I'm intrigued.
So our media production program, we get the students to write, to develop, to write, to shoot, do everything, audio engineering, getting them to understand how to edit. We want to see how you see life, right? And I tell them all the time, like people will determine what you see and how they think you are if you don't do it yourself. So, the students can shoot things off of their phones. The students can shoot things if they have cameras, but we're doing a working film festival where we will bring in professionals and we will give them, it's different rooms. We'll give them things in different a schedule, but in one room they may be learning lighting, and then they come and they learn sound, and then they come and they learn editing, right? And then we're able to screen the films that they are able to make, and these are all short films. But we want to get those next generation of filmmakers out there because now they have the technology in their hands. So you can shoot a whole movie off an iPhone now. But just to get the students to understand that your voice does matter and we want to hear what you have to say. That frustration that you may feel, why are you frustrated? So it's that the creativity, but it's also kind of social emotional type deal. Like, let us see your world so we can figure out maybe through your film, how can we help you? And so it's great. Um, we have the film festival, but we also do things with our recreation program. So we play soccer, play lacrosse, we play rugby. Our students serve as sideline reporters. Our students serve as they have the commentators. So, again, they are the media production team. If you come to any of our robotics competitions, you'll see STEAMsport Media. You'll see the students around there. They're taking pictures. They're interviewing students. Again, and getting them to understand oratory skills. How do you talk? How do you ask questions? How do you speak up confidently?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely something I enjoy.
Now, what I love about what you just said is not only are you teaching the skills, getting them using the technology, but there's also you call it 21st century skills. So they're also getting kind of the entrepreneurial spirit and experience. Like they're the media team, so they're responsible for these things that happen. So they don't do their job. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. that kind of helps keep the program going from a
Absolutely.
marketing standpoint and getting the messaging out and around. So I
Mhm.
love that. So you're preparing these students um, to be owners or to go be successful employees at that next level. So talking about that and kind of that transition piece from the education you're giving these students in particular, you're giving these students the education, and then there's a transition from that point to a career path, whether that's
Mhm.
going to get a job, whether that's starting a business, going to the military, what have you. What type of ecosystem do you have in place? What type of ecosystem is needed to ensure that the students, and the people that come through, the activations that you're doing, that they're able to take what you've done and apply them into those career paths and entrepreneurial ventures? Because when we talked, you said that like we're the launch pad. The
Mhm.
example you gave me is if you had a fire escape ladder and you're on the ground trying to reach it.
Mhm.
With STEAMsport, kind of gives you that push you need to be up there and reach the ladder, but
Absolutely.
then you go and climb it, yourself.
Absolutely.
So what's the
Absolutely.
ecosystem, that's needed to make
Mhm.
sure that the participants of the programming are able to do that climb and go ahead and get into those career paths? What role does an org like BDPA play in that?
Absolutely. Integral role. Integral role. So, you hit it right on the head. We are very clear about what we do, who we serve, and what we are. We are the grassiest of the grassroots, right? We are where the students are. We're where they attend school. We're where they live. We're where they play. Our job is to create the interest and begin to create the infrastructure in students being the future technologists, the future STEAM professionals. We're going to come in there and we're going to give a student a robot and say, hey, make this move, right? Now, after we have already created that interest and we start to create the infrastructure, organizations like BDPA are integral because we can't do everything. I'm sorry, we can't do everything. And I don't want to do everything, right? So, us creating that interest and then having organizations like BDPA makes it really just easier. I just kind of give you some background on how we came to BDPA was, we were teaching kids computer coding. I think we had started teaching them a little HTML, a little CSS, and we looked around and be like, okay, that's it. And so when I contact the BDPA and say, hey, I have a building, I can recruit instructors, I have kids, I just need to have your infrastructure so I can continue to push these kids along. And so it's been a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful relationship. And we've been here since 2013, have been a part of BDPA, but we have that same relationship with organizations like OBAP, which is the Organization for Black Aerospace Professionals, for
Mm.
students that want to be future pilots. Getting them to places like the National Flight Academy down in Pensacola, having them stay and see the Blue Angels, stay on campus, be able to map out different flight plans, building that interest and then handing them over to LBAP and say, okay, I need you to really cultivate this because these are organizations that have either they can hire or they're the introductory organizations that you have this network that can say, hey, I know I've been knowing this student since he's 16. I
Mm.
know he has all of the skills because I've seen them on display, get his college degree, and now I'm going to hire him at GE or at State Farm or wherever, right? So that's kind of like the path that we have, and so the organizations like BDPA, they play an integral role. Like we couldn't do it without you guys.
No, I'm glad you shared that. And for those who are watching or listening right now, listen to what's being said here and think about the connections you have that could add to this ecosystem. We have students here that are learning everything from esports and game development to we just talked about rocket design and flight planning. So there's quite the range here. When we think about STEAM and what's needed in the what I like to call the survival infrastructures or survival entities, if you will, of kind of the world. We need travel, we need food, we need water, we need power. At this point, you need internet. So, no, that's powerful what you're doing, and that ecosystem is critical. So I'm glad BDPA has been able to play a part of that. And I'm glad you've been able
Oh,
to partner with
absolutely.
other organizations to fill in those other gaps as well. So if you have organizations and you're listening, or you're watching on YouTube right now, definitely reach out to William and let's keep this going. So along those paths, we've been talking a lot about evolution. We're all about modern STEAM activations today. So we haven't really even talked about hackathons for real. We're really talking about new ways of doing STEAM education, music production, film festivals, esports
Mhm.
competitions, game development, robotics, all this good stuff. Um, Looking forward, what would you say the future of STEAM education and STEAM activations looks like as technology continues to evolve so rapidly?
That's an excellent question, man. All right, looking forward, STEAM education. Uh, I think the biggest thing with STEAM education is going to be um, getting parents involved a little more often in their child's STEAM education in terms of getting them to understand what could potentially be coming down the pipeline. Because I think technology is moving so fast. It's almost like one of those things that they say, hey, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. All right.
Yeah,
So if you understand what exists now, you're able to capitalize on what's coming down in the future. So I'll give you a perfect example. A lot of our parents are more kind of labor type workers. Um, and so they're more shift workers, right? And so they see AI, they see technology as a detriment or kind of like an opponent of their jobs, of their livelihood. And so my thing is to try to convince them that there are jobs inside of technology. So if you say, hey, I'm going to the Amazon warehouse, they have the robots that are taking over the Amazon and they're taking me out of my job. It's like somebody has to build the robot, somebody has to program the robot. If that robot breaks down, somebody has to come fix the robot. So let's be thinking about how can we get into those particular jobs instead of just kind of doing this just mice kind of wheel and saying, okay, I'm gonna work in a warehouse, I'm gonna do this to be a forklift driver, those are great jobs. But let's begin to think of if those jobs don't exist, so what's going to be the next step for those particular jobs? Because they're not going to stay the same. Nothing stays the same. So we have to begin to kind of think forward. So that's the things that we're trying to prepare our students to say, let's understand what exists now, but then let's be challenged to figure out what's going to exist. Like we talked about platforms, and we have a lot of students that want to be content creators. That's big boom now. But
yep,
you're creating content to go on the same four platforms. Right? Let's begin to think about how can we create our platform or a platform that people are going to put their content on so that you can monetize it. Because if they're going to pay you $1,000 for this video, imagine what they're making. So that's our big conversation with both our parents and our students. Let's kind of figure out what's the next thing. Let's push forward. Let's not think in this box. Let's figure out what is this now, and let's have a good understanding of that. But then let's also be able to dream really, really big. I tell them all the time. There was this guy that says, "Hey, I'm going to be able to talk to people across the world in a box," and everybody thought he was crazy. And so we talk
yeah,
about, Steve Jobs, and we talk about, the Zuckerbergs of the world. And we talk about these people who had these really big ideas and everybody thought that they were crazy, but now they are, some of the richest men in the world. So we got to
yeah.
begin to push forward.
Absolutely. No, and that's what I loved about the BDPA conference this year. Like we had our traditional pathways of educating people around tech, um, connecting with employers to get roles, making sure you know how to use technology and consume technology. But we also had a lot of tracks around being creators in this tech space
Mhm.
this year. We had an entrepreneurial pitch competition. We had the cyber feud with people like Family Feud, but you're answering things about cybersecurity that a lot of people didn't know. That you can take
Mhm.
and apply that, in your roles now. So we definitely had pathways that's not only equipping people to be consumers of technology, but also creators of technology. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the
Absolutely.
evolution of a quote unquote successful career path is how do you make sure there's an element that you're creating in this
Absolutely.
space. The
Absolutely.
whole thing right now is AI going to take my job? Not necessarily, but it's definitely gonna be more favorable for the people who know how to create with
Hmm.
AI. If you can make these agents, you're gonna be far more valuable than the person who's being replaced by the agent. So make
Hmm.
sure you're on the right side of history, if you will, with that, and getting the skills and the exposure now to expand our toolkit so that we stay relevant as technology continues to evolve.
Definitely.
So I do want to take the moment to see if we have any questions from the room here today. Any questions or comments, anything anyone would like to share or ask, we'll open the floor right now. I know I did see one come in the chat here. Someone said, I love this and have watched Steam Sports evolve over time. So you definitely had a cosign as
Well,
you were
thank you,
talking
thank
here.
you. And just thank
Let's
you
see.
to, man, this has been a ride, Devin. When I say it's been from just an idea. And I think that's, just telling our students, man, planning ideas, and you begin to look back on stuff like this logo, man, the wrong side. This logo, man, I remember I was just sitting down one day and just drew. And so now you go online and you look at it and it's like, oh man, you start to remember all of these ideas that you have, and
Yeah.
just the power of a decision
Yep.
is so powerful, man. Just you make up your mind, you decide you want to do it, you set a goal, and you just say, okay, I'm gonna ride and just see where it takes me. And so we've had so many supporters, man, and I see a lot of them on today. Just have been riding with us for so long, and their students have been in STEAMsport. I've spent a lot of time with them. Both in and out of town. We've been in conferences. We've been all over the place, man. And so, just the support is been amazing. And I always have to thank everybody for supporting us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Report is everything. Let's see here. I want to make sure no one's trying to speak on mute or no one's taking the time trying to get something dropped in the chat right now. But any questions for anyone that's on today?
I'm an open book. So and that's another thing that I want to say. I think kind of blessings come from being able to share things, right? And so anybody that's ever come to me about, and I get a lot of people. How do you start a nonprofit? How do you, what's the secret sauce? How you guys are able to be in this thing so long? And I'm going to take the time with you. I'm going to share everything that I know, and I'm never going to charge anybody. Like that is crazy to me. If we're trying to go to the same outcomes, right? We want to affect the lives of people, then I think free sharing, that's how you get your blessings. And I think, just from me sharing and from me helping and from me, if other people are having events, so if anybody needs us to do things, we're the first to show up. And I've met so many people and I've gotten so many opportunities just by showing up. Even with BDPA, they said, hey, we need chaperones. All right, I'll come. And I was a chaperone for years. And just came to Victor and said, hey, I think we may be getting a little stale. Let's infuse some creativity in this thing. Let's play esports. And even with Victor was like, yeah, let's do it. And so it's kind of evolved from there. The team is great. Victor, Shanika, Jamie, everybody in the Atlanta team is great. They support. And yeah, we're just in a really, really, really good space. And again, I think, that whole never being stingy, never thinking of money first, just how can we move this thing forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, seems like I think you've answered most of the questions that was on people's hearts today. So just to close us out, what's up next for Steam Sport, and how can people connect and engage with what you're doing?
All right. So first, go to www.steamsport.com. Follow us on social media, which I have to do a well, not very better, much better job at posting like social media. I got to get like you, Devin. Like this is it's the bane of my existence, but I'm gonna tackle it. Definitely go to and follow us on all the social media platforms with Steve Sport. Go to the website. Up next, we have our first Lego League robotics competition. That is going to be hosted on December the 13th. Got a background story of that. There's only two African American hosts of a robotics competition, first Lego in the state of Georgia. It is ourselves and then the 100 Black Scholars of Atlanta, the 100 Robotics Alliance. My goal is to build more African American hosts because before we would have to go to Warner Robins, we would have to go about an hour away for our students to compete in the robotics competition. And of course, very few of our parents had the transportation to get there. So while other parents were there, they're cheering, and our kids were just like, oh, okay. So, we host that. We host the underwater robotics competition that is in March. So we need a lot of volunteers. We host about 30 teams. Each team has about 10 students, and then when you take the chaperones and the coaches, you are about almost 400 people that come to this robotics competition. So we need robot refs. We need judges. And I see some of the judges. I think Shanika's judge. And Patricia's judge. It's not hard. And once you do it, I promise you, you will be addicted to doing it. Just getting in there and seeing the enthusiasm and the creativity for those students. It is addictive and it's amazing. So we'll have that up. I'll share my info in the chat. And then if you have any questions, you can always give me a buzz, but that is our next thing up.
You heard it here. Getting ready to host your own first robotics tournament. That's a huge deal. That is a
And
huge deal.
this is our eighth. So this is our eighth annual one.
Eighth
So
annual. Okay, it's the eighth annual.
yeah, this is the eighth
That's
annual.
only two of one of two black owned robotics competitions in the state of
Yep.
Georgia. It's your eighth annual, and that's huge. That's a big deal. It's
So
a very
again,
big deal. Yeah, I
thanks to
had the
everyone.
chance to see it was a first robotics competition when I was in Milwaukee. I had a chance to see that at the UW
Big ones.
Milwaukee
Yeah.
Panthers Arena, and I was like, "What is happening here?" It was
Yeah.
crazy, man.
But
So
you figure out those sponsors, 3M, John Deere, GM. What do you think they're getting their next engineers from? That's the only reason they're shelling out this money. But unfortunately, we are very few and far between. They're getting those students information, they're getting those students cards, they're tracking them. And they're saying, hey, you need a scholarship to go to Georgia Tech, we'll do that. Because they know when you graduate, you're gonna go work for John Deere. And they got somebody that they know that can do the job. So we want to do the same thing for our students.
absolutely. Well, salute to you and all the work you're doing with STEAMsport, taking these modern STEAM activations and truly being a launch pad for successful careers in our community. So thank you for all that you do, William. Thank you all for tuning in today. This will be on our YouTube channel, National BDPA. So go subscribe if you haven't already. And share this with somebody. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for being here. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, comment below. Click that bell so you know when we're posting, and share this with somebody who needs to hear this message. If you know some sponsors who want to support STEAM activations and education, robotics, esports, music production, whatever, send them William's way. If you want to come check it out, get involved yourself, go to STEAMsport.com, connect with William Oliver on LinkedIn. Let's keep this thing rocking and rolling. So thank you again for listening today. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you all for being here on this day. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you soon.
Thank you all.